Okay, where am I? Chapter 26. Look at that mischievous bugger. Pan's nature and deeds. Several powerful gods and goddesses of Greece have never been enrolled among the Olympian 12. Pan, for instance, a humble fellow, now dead, was content to live on Earth in rural Arcadia, and Hades, Persephone, and Hecate know that their presence is unwelcome on Olympus, and Mother Earth is far too old and set in her ways to accommodate herself to the family life of her grandchildren and great-grandchildren. B. Some say that Hermes fathered Pan on Dryope, daughter of Dryops, or on the nymph Onis, or on Penelope, wife of Odysseus, whom he visited in the form of a ram, or on Amalthea the goat. He is said to have been so ugly at birth with horns, beard, tail, and goat legs that his mother ran away from him in fear, and Hermes carried him up to Olympus for the gods' amusement. But Pan was Zeus's foster brother and therefore far older than Hermes or than Penelope, on whom others say he was fathered by all the suitors who wooed her during Odysseus' absence. Still others make him the son of Cronus and Rhea, or of Zeus by Hybris, which is the least improbable account. C. He lived in Arcadia, where he guarded flocks, herds, and beehives, took part in the revels of the mountain nymphs, and helped hunters to find their quarry. He was, on the whole, easygoing and lazy, loving nothing better than his afternoon sleep, and revenged himself on those who disturbed him with a sudden loud shout from a grove or grotto, which made the hair bristle on their heads. Yet the Arcadians paid him so little respect that if ever they returned empty-handed after a long day's hunting, they dared scourge him with squills. D. Pan seduced several nymphs such as Echo, who bore him Onyx, and came to an unlucky end for the love of Narcissus and Epheme, nurse of the Muses, who bore him Crotus, the bowman in the zodiac. He also boasted that he had coupled with all Dionysius' drunken maenads. E. Once he tried to violate the chaste Pitys, who escaped him only by being metamorphosed into a fir tree, a branch of which he afterwards wore as a chaplet. On another occasion, he pursued the chaste Syrinx from Mount Lycaeum to the river Ladon, where she became a reed. There, since he could not distinguish her from among all the rest, he cut several reeds at random and made them into a pan pipe. His greatest success in love was the seduction of Selene, which he accomplished by disguising his hairy black goatishness with well-washed white fleeces. Not realizing who he was, Selene consented to ride on his back and let him do as he pleased with her. F. The Olympian gods, while despising Pan for his simplicity and love of riot, exploited his powers. Apollo wheedled the art of Wheedled. Weed led the art of prophecy from him, and Hermes copied a pipe which he had let fall, claimed it as his own invention, and sold it to Apollo. G. Pan is the only god who has died in our time. The news of his death came to one Thamus, a sailor in a ship bound for Italy by way of the island of Paxi. A divine voice shouted across the sea, "Thamus, are you there? When you reach the Palodes, take care to proclaim that the great god Pan is dead," which Thamus did, and the news was greeted from the shore with groans and laments. Have to forgive me, there's a high pollen count today. Just the way it goes. Footers. 1. Pan, whose name is usually derived from pain, to pastures, stands for the devil, an upright man of the Arcadian fertility cult, which closely resembled the witch cult of northern Western Europe. This man, dressed in a goat skin, was the chosen lover of the Maenads during their drunken orgies on the high mountains, and sooner or later paid for his privilege with death. 2. The accounts of Pan's birth vary greatly, since Hermes was the power resident in a phallic stone, which formed the center of these orgies. The shepherds described their Pan god as his son by a woodpecker, a bird whose tapping is held to portend the welcome summer rain. The myth that he fathered Pan and Oeneus is self-explanatory, though the original Menides used other intoxicants than wine, and the name of his reputed mother, Penelope, I think I said it right, with a web over her face, suggests that Menides wore some form of war paint for their orgies, recalling the stripes of the Penelope, a variety of duck. Plutarch says on the Delays of Divine Punishment 12 that the Menides who killed Orpheus were tattooed by their husbands as punishment, and a Menade whose legs and arms are tattooed with a web pattern appears on a vase at the British Museum. Hermes' visit to Penelope in the form of a ram, the ram devil, is as common in the northwestern witch cult as the goat. Her impregnation by all the suitors, and the claim that Pan had coupled with every one of the Menades refers to the promiscuous nature of the revels in honor of the fur goddess Pitys, or Elate. The Arcadian mountaineers were the most primitive in Greece, and their more civilized neighbors professed to despise them. 3. Pan's son, the wernick, or snake bird, was a spring migrant employed in erotic charms. Squills contain an irritant poison against mice and rats, valuable against mice and rats, and were used as a purge and diuretic before taking part in a ritual act. Thus, squill came to symbolize the removal of evil influences, and Pan's image was scourged with squill if game were scarce. Scarce. 4. His seduction of Selene must refer to a moonlight May Eve orgy in which the young queen of the May rode upon her upright man's back before celebrating a greenwood marriage with him. By this time, the ram cult had superseded the goat cult in Arcadia. 5. The Egyptian Thamus apparently misheard the ceremonial lament. Thamus, Pan, Megas, Thenis, the all-great Tammuz is dead. For the message, Thamus, great Pan, is dead. At any rate, Plutarch, a priest at Delphi in the latter half of the 1st century A.D., believed and published it. Yet, when Pausanias made his tour of Greece about a century later, he found Pan's shrines, altars, sacred calves, and sacred mountains still much frequented.